Our theme today is change. And as we move into that topic, I invite you just to think about where in your life is there a calling for change, a calling for transformation. Maybe you know what it is instantly and you want to jot that down in the chat room. Or maybe it's just something that there's like something, right at the tip of your tongue or somewhere in your heart, you're feeling this awareness, something is coming forward. I know when I look out at the world today, I see so many places where there is a calling for change. In fact, this morning I was journaling my morning pages as I do, and I spent 4 pages reflecting on all of the different areas where I'm seeing this call for change. And some of it is positive opportunities. Some of it is, things that I'm seeing that don't feel right anymore, old ways of looking at things, either in my own life personally, how I do business, how I manage my finances, to what I'm seeing outside, all of the unrest and the fears that are going on and it being expressed. And when I see these things, I think in terms of not labeling them, that those are bad things and so they need to change, but that they're experiences that are ready to be transformed into something better. So when we are looking at change, sometimes it's quick. Our minds are quick to label and to judge, the bad, the wrong, even in our own bodies, we label something, oh, we're sick or whatever that feeling is. But I've, in my own life experience, learned to transform that a little bit to, I am experiencing this, so the world is experiencing unrest. If I'm sneezing, I'm experiencing sniffles or I'm experiencing symptoms of a cold rather than like claiming it. I am this thing, I am unrest, I am sick. Just noticing that shift in perspective and how I even talk to myself about it has made a big difference in terms of being able to then transform it in my life. So as we're looking at change, and we're continuing to look at the book, Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth. And today I'm pulling from his chapter on healing, that focuses on healing. And I want to point out that spiritual healing doesn't just refer to, our physical body or those ideas, again, of being sick. It's really about our entire well-being, that wholeness of being, which refers to our body as well as our mind, our emotions, our the energies around us, and our spiritual self, that wholeness of being. So when our wholeness is healed, that's when we're in that state of awareness that no matter what is happening in my life, around me, out in the world, that I am a spiritual being having this human experience. When I can approach things from that level of awareness, I'm approaching it from a state of wholeness, a whole perspective. So spiritual healing is about bringing things back into the awareness of wholeness. And so that can apply to transformation in exterior challenges as well. Eric Butterworth writes, spiritual healing is not based on there is no sickness, there is no pain. This is huge to notice, this language around this, because sometimes we think of it in terms of a dismissal, a denial, and think, well, denying something means that it doesn't exist. I deny that I have a cold. If I'm experiencing cold symptoms, it's like, that's a little bit different than saying, yes, my body my physical body is in this moment experiencing this, but that there is something greater. So this Butterworth says, there is sickness in our world, but pain and sickness are only part of the picture of the whole man. It's only a part. It's not the complete wholeness. And again, I want to extend our definition of sickness, that it's not just about a physical dis-ease of the body, but anything that keeps us individually or collectively from experiencing wholeness. Places where we look at the world and say, you know, something is like sick, it's wrong out there and it needs to change. When we're looking at it again from this awareness of, yes, this is happening, it is a reality in this physical existence, but there is more to it. There is a wholeness beyond that. And I love this example that Butterworth gives of being in the basement. You may be living in the basement of your house, uncomfortable, cold, cramped and hampered by darkness, but there's still a whole house. I would not say that you are not cold and uncomfortable in your basement, but I could say that this condition can be changed. The condition can be changed, and that there's a warm, comfortable, and well-lighted house you can occupy right now, if you get out of the basement. No matter what the experience, you are a spiritual being living in a spiritual world, simply having a human experience. So when our humanness has us dragged down into the basement, we have the opportunity to walk up the stairs, if you will, to move into that higher consciousness of spiritual awareness right in the midst of whatever's going on. And again, not to negate the cold or the discomfort or whatever is coming up that's calling forward change. So I want you to take a moment and just consider, what does your basement look like right now? Are there monsters down there? Something you don't want to look at, don't want to face? What challenge occupies the dark space with you when your thoughts travel down there? It might show up as personal issues, physical discomfort in the body, emotional pain, fear, financial challenges. It could be collective issues, systemic injustice, violence, environmental concerns, global health. It might be a dragon. Maybe you have a dragon in your basement that is too big to even comprehend. You know, what exactly does it look like? When we are calling forward change, the first step is to look at what is there. Just to notice it, just to be an observer for a moment. And perhaps some of us have been overwhelmed with observing all of the things that we see or perceive that there's a need for change, again, in our personal lives or out in the world. What we're experiencing, though, this physical state, our emotional state, the collective experiences of change out in the world are part of the story, part of the picture. But it is a real and valid part of our experience. It might be an experience that's calling forward change, a new opportunity, a new way of seeing things, a transformation, a growth, right? Moving from that state of caterpillar into butterfly, into spreading our wings in some way. Your wholeness includes your spiritual nature, and that's where the answers are. Prayer and spiritual practices, such as our creative journaling sessions here, are tools to help us remember our spiritual self and the presence of the loving, creative source, the divine in the midst of all things. So we will be using our journals today to look in the basement, get out our flashlights, or maybe you've got a little light in there somewhere. I don't even have a basement in this particular house, which kind of I think is really silly that they would build a house without a basement in the Midwest, but I will have to use my imagination to travel into my basement. So if you don't have a physical one, imagine that darker space. And what is down there that maybe you haven't been fully looking at, or you've just been kind of glimpsing at the periphery. Maybe you've been living in the basement for the last 4 months. I know for many of us, there's been so much emotion and so much inner work that's being done during this time because of all of the external chaos that's happening. So maybe you've really been in the basement and observing all of this stuff for a while. And today I'm going to give you a chance to use your journal as a place to simply presence what's in there. Presence, there's monsters, there's dragons, there's things that are calling for change. And see if in doing so, you can't lift above the problem a little bit to then look at what shows up on the page from a higher perspective. And perhaps your inner wisdom will begin to guide you towards what steps, concrete action steps to take towards creating that change in your life. Or maybe it'll just feel a moment of peace and being able to look at it. Sometimes when we look something right in the face, it can take away that fear. So in creating our journal pages today, I invite you to get messy, because this is something that calls for a little bit of mess and a little bit of exploration. I wanted to share with you this page that I did a while back, which was done with using actually an old encyclopedia, like tearing pages out to just create some texture in the background. And then I tore magazine images up to create these trees. So it sort of created this forest. And then this image is actually a dance troupe. So it's not so scary when you see it as a dance troupe, but the idea of people in masks, right? They're hiding something. And so I did a lot of journal writing. If you can see the writing on the background there, so hard to angle things. You can see some of that writing in there where I was processing, what are the things that are showing up hidden or disguised sort of in that foresty area. And the words that came out at the end for me were right here in the middle, and it says, "Be you bravely." And it was that courage, that call to courage, call to step forward and make the changes in my life that I needed to do to move through some of those fears that were coming up. So your page might look like scribbles. It might look like blobs of color as you just consider, what colors do I feel in this basement? What sort of energy am I feeling in this space of the unknown that's seeking transformation? Yours might be a pictorial collage, just tearing things out of magazines and putting them down, or just spreading paint around and see how that feels to get you started and see where the process takes you today. You never know what'll happen once you get started with a creative journaling page. Let the process be your own as always, and let it take you where you need to go. So we will be moving now into a short meditation, which will then take into our time of creative reflection. And following the creative time, we'll have about an hour for our creative reflection today. And following that time, we'll come back to the group around 11:30 to share what those experiences were for us and hold each other's experience in a time of sacred sharing. For anyone that's joining us on Facebook Live, we invite you to join our Zoom room. The link is in the description to the video, and you can come in and share your process with us. We would love to have you join in the discussion. So right now I invite you to get comfortable in your chair. Just take a moment, notice where your shoulders are, maybe roll them a little bit or roll your neck. You drop into the present moment. Bring your awareness to your breath, noticing the inhale and the exhale, letting that rhythm bring you to a state of relaxation, a place of peace, and a place of inner empowerment, knowing that you have the courage to look at what needs change. You have the strength to persevere. You have the creative wisdom within you to do all that is yours to do. Breathing in, we take this into our hearts. And with an exhale, we release anything that is holding us back, any fears or doubts. Breathing in peace. Exhale, release, as we move into a moment of silence. And as we bring our awareness back to the present moment, the present time, we allow ourselves to let our creative expression be a continuation of the meditation practice, letting it take us deeper within to the truth of our own being, to the source of our own strength, and to the light of love that brings peace in every situation. So I invite you now to journal, explore and express what's in your basement and what in the rest of your house can help shed some light on that space. Enjoy the process.